It's an absolute pleasure to present today. We've had a lot of news flow in the past week or so around some new land deals, as well as initiating, we're purchasing a mechanical sorter. And that's what you see on the initial image here is basically a monitor for a mechanical sorter. I will talk about that in a few slides. Forward-looking statement, of course, this is posted on our website. I would urge people to go and review the slide deck there and read this in detail. You can see our current share structure. We have 188 million shares out. Kirkland Lake and Eric Sprott, two largest shareholders. We have significant shareholding held by Newmont as well as the Mark Creasy Group out of Perth, Australia. Mark was actually the gentleman who helped put together the initial land position for Novo. We have about 30 million in cash at the moment. All right, so why are we in Australia? Well, the original continent on this planet was a little tiny thing, a proto-continent called You can see here an image of what we thought it looked like. It's since broken apart. Capel Craton ended up in South Africa. The Capel Craton is host to the Witwatersrand Basin, which is the single largest gold field on this planet. The thesis is if gold like that can be found in the Wits, which was part of this continent, perhaps the Pilbara Craton, which is now in northwest Australia, could also host similar potential. All right, you can see our land position here. It's actually a tremendous land package. I think we're approaching 14,000 square kilometers at this time. We have a commanding position in the Pilbara region, which is in the northwest part of Australia. I'm going to grab the pointer, and I will show you the inset map. We're up here. We have initial land position here in the East Pilbara, but we've grown tremendously over the past few years. The iron ore country, the big iron ore mines of Australia are actually located in the central part of the Pilbara Basin. These are our deposits. They're conglomerate deposits. These are gravels that were laid down by ancient rivers and along ancient shorelines along the ocean many, many eons ago, about 2.75 billion years ago. So these two are from two of our many properties, Beatons Creek and Comet Well. Very similar in nature. You can see they're comprised of boulders. The gold occurs in the sandy matrix here between the boulders. Egina, which is at the bottom, is a gravel it's a modern gravel derived from weathering of the top two. This is our gold. All right, we have very coarse gold. All right, this is the gold that occurs in the matrix of those conglomerates I showed you. It's not gold you can rock up and take an average rock chip sample and assess grade. Okay, you have to do things like bulk sampling. And Novo has developed the protocols and expertise to advance this style of mineralization. We're more like a diamond company than we are a gold company in terms of how we assess this. What's wonderful about this style of mineralization is coarse gold like this is very easy to handle in terms of metallurgy, extracting it from the rock. And I'm going to show you some of the innovative work we're doing right now in that regard. I'm going to talk about Beatons Creek, which is over in the East Pilbara here first. These are the conglomerates of Beatons Creek. They're about 1 to 2 meters thick. They're comprised of siliceous boulders compacted together. They're very sheet-like deposits. They're often stacked, so you get maybe up to 5 or 6 of these layers stacked upon one another with a little bit of intervening low grade. But otherwise, these things are very sheet-like and continuous. You can see here the gold occurs in this sandy matrix. We did a test mining program about 3 or 4 years ago. We stripped off the material where this is oxidized. The matrix of the rock is broken down. It's free dig, so we don't need to drill and blast. We stripped off the waste material and then mined a bench, effectively a panel, about 100 meters by 50 meters across. This is the panel as we're mining it. You can see the layer of conglomerate right there in the middle of that photo with the two guys standing on it for scale. This is a picture of a close-up of that bench. This dark red material is the conglomerate. That's where the gold is. The white is the footwall sandstone. You can see how effectively we were able to segregate these two. We were able to mine that thing like a laser surgeon. It worked fantastic. Current resource, we have about a little under half million in indicated, and then the balance in inferred at this time. This resource is well advanced at this point. I'll talk about that in a minute. Its weighted average grade is about 2.4 grams, something like that. So there's roughly 11 million tons of rock at a near surface environment, we'll call it. This thing's wide open, and I'm delightful to announce that we signed a deal with the Creasy Group to acquire 100% interest in the ground around Beatons Creek now. So basically, we think we can grow this resource dramatically. once we get this thing into production, which is our immediate short-term goal. Okay, you can see all the steps we've taken, Beatons Creek. We've moved this thing through a long, laborious process, but we're now in a position where it's fully mine permitted, and we're setting this thing on a path to production. I hope to announce in the next few weeks a clear path for production from Beatons. I think this will be a seminal moment for Novo. It's the first deposit of this type to be put into production. It'll be a momentous day for us. Now I'm going to talk about Karratha. This is the story that drove a lot of excitement, like Jay said earlier, a couple of years ago. We found two horizons of conglomerate at the base of the Fortescue Group, which is the big sequence that hosts gold in this region. The lower unit is about 1 to 3 meters thick. The upper unit's about 1 to 2 meters thick. You can see the gold that comes out. It's very coarse grain. We had to bulk sample this thing along strike in multiple locations. We had to diamond drill it for geological control. We right now have a very robust mineral report put together. The coarse gold prohibits us right now from putting a resource to this, but we do plan to move this to trial mining very soon. You'll see a news release this morning about that and how we're going to use mechanical sorting to that effect. We're taking Karratha through a path very similar to Beatons Creek. This is a list of the things we've either done or are working on. We want to make this into the next mine. So think of it like a phase 2 mine on the back of Beatons Creek. Beatons Creek is going to be the first off the first cab off the rank, so to speak. This is going to be our second. Now we're moving that forward. You can see the news we put out this morning. I'm now going to talk about Egina. It's here in the middle, central part of the Pilbara. So we talked about Beatons, which is over here. We talked about Karratha, which is over here. Notice we have lots of other projects around here, but we're going to talk about Egina right now. It's the eroded derivative of these conglomerates. If you look, there's a watershed, a big river system that comes from this region northward to the Indian Ocean. This river has cut through all of the Fortescue Group rocks, these conglomerates, over time, and it's washed those gravels down onto this terrace. And in doing so, it's created a modern alluvial gold system in this region. It's incredible. Okay, so here we see the geologic model. Basically, the rocks that host the gold, which are these, are eroded and then weathered, washed down onto this terrace where the gold is reconstituted in a gravel that sits on surface. This picture shows you the terrace. It's extensive. It looks like West Texas. This image is looking way off to the Indian Ocean, which would be in the far, far distance. These are the hills that are eroding away. This is where the gold is coming from in these conglomerates here. So it's very concrete, very, very clear model, but many people scratch their head and wonder what on earth are these knuckleheads doing. All right, Novo is a unique company. These are unique deposits. Many people think that we're doing something that's never been done before, but that's not true. There's a deposit in Namibia along the Atlantic seaboard called the Skeleton Coast, and it hosts diamonds, not gold, but diamonds. But it's the same type of deposit we have at Egina. It's a gravel that's scattered over a very broad surface for 200 kilometers along the seaboard here. You can see the Orange River. This river has brought down gravel and diamonds over the yawns, and then the sea has washed this back and forth like a Mother Nature's washboard. You have diamonds up here that De Beers have mined for over 100 years. They're now mining, believe it or not, gravels offshore. It's an astonishing deposit, world-class in nature. This is Egina. This is our mining lease in the foreground. We have most of the ground in the background here too. These are exploration licenses further out. It shows you that there's gold distributed. These are little yellow dots, are gold occurrences where local prospectors metal detect and such, and they find gold all over the terrace, especially where the gravels lap onto little hills that you can see off in the distance. All right, what we want to know is there gravel out here in the bigger terrace? Is this thing, is what we're seeing here just the fringes of something much, much bigger here? And I've got very exciting news in that regard. So we've used ground-penetrating radar to great success to identify channels or swales. This is a very valuable tool we use. We dig trenches like you see in the foreground here. We dig bulk samples. This panel that you see these two guys standing on is a bulk sample that was excavated, put in trucks, and hauled to our Station Peak test plant, which is this thing here. So we put it through the test plant. There's a sluice right here, and then two falcons in the back. These generate concentrates of gold out of this deposit. You can see here the gold that we recover, very coarse gold out of the sluice, and then the falcons generate somewhat finer gold, but really in gold world, this is all coarse grain gold, okay? We're talking about plus millimeter size gold, very coarse grain. and it allows us potentially easy recovery. You can see the grades here, fantastic grades. We're talking about deposits that are better than any alluvial deposit on the planet. What are we doing now? We're exploring. We're looking at Road to Paradise out here. This is where we did our test work last year. At Road to Paradise, we're doing 1-ton samples out of pits like that, putting them through a Mac machine, and then producing a concentrate like this. And what do we see? We see large swales, basically channels, where there's abundant gold. We're now going to bulk sample these areas, and hopefully we turn up something that's bigger than Ben-Hur here. Okay, you can see the test area we did last year. Here's Road to Paradise. These white arrows show you the pattern of distribution of gold-bearing gravels across this region. This area is 10 kilometers by 17 kilometers. That's 170 square kilometers. If this thing, or even a significant percentage of this surface, has gold on it, we have a sizable deposit, much like the Skeleton Coast. Okay, so we're taking it through these steps. Again, we're doing mechanical sorting. I want to talk about that briefly. This is rock from Karatha. We did this first test work in 2018, worked like a charm. We took 5 tons of rock, produced about 5 kilos of concentrate, and boom, the gold nuggets popped out. Wonderful outcome. We did it with fine-grained nuggets last year. The companies that produce these things, they developed the technology to see little tiny nuggets, 1 millimeter nuggets. It worked wonderfully. So we did test work. We demonstrated reproducibility of sorting of gold as fine as 1 millimeter from our various deposits. This data here will change the mining industry. This is basically mechanical rock sorting data from a test we did at Beatons Creek rock. We crushed the material down, we screened it to various size fractions, and then we sorted it. What this tells me is that even though the gold at Beatons Creek is somewhat finer, say sub-millimeter quite often, the machine can see it, identify it, and concentrate it. That means you can take basically any deposit with coarse gold and physically upgrade it using mechanical sorters. We're on the cutting edge of this. Novo is the only one doing this work right now, and we're going to apply it to every single deposit we have. We're putting a sorter out in the field per our news release this morning, and you're going to see amazing things come out of this. I'm very, very optimistic by this work. With that, I will leave it to the questionnaire session that's coming up very shortly. Thank you.